This is a Dragon Blazer production, and I am the little boogeyman.
All right. Coming down the aisle, it's the podcast tag team champions of the world, the Rage and Blaze Show.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the Rage and Blaze Show. I'm Rage.
And I'm Blaze.
And today we are finally moving in to the 90s.
Rock.
We have reached it. We're kind of in the era of grunge at the moment. We're not quite to punk yet. So we're talking grunge.
Talking Nirvana, Pearl Jam.
So yeah, we've got a new era, and which is going to bring in new superstars, which is going to bring in a new attitude, if you will, at one point in the 90s, and yes. I can't wait to get to it. But
I don't think it has that attitude quite yet.
No, it's not quite there. We're still in the early 90s. As a matter of fact, Royal Rumble, this is the first WWF pay-per-view of the 90s, and we're still feeling like the 80s at this point. But give it a couple years, and I think we're going to be where we're, in my opinion, the
telling people to suck it.
Oh, yeah.
Flipping people off.
We're going to have to raise the level of our podcast to mature if it's not already there. I mean, we're not that vulgar on here.
We already are explicit.
We're already explicit? Well, I mean, I'm sure we said
we're not super vulgar, but I recognize what I am, so I make it explicit regardless.
Oh, just to kind of give yourself to where you don't have to censor yourself. And
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want any fucking kids complaining. It'll probably be the moms.
Yeah.
It'll be the moms.
Yeah. All right. Okay. I got you. Okay. So we're moving into January 21st, 1990. This is the Royal Rumble. This would be our third Royal Rumble, I believe.
Correct.
Yes. So this is our third Royal Rumble. So we'll have a body of work here to kind of rank them up, between three of them now. So I still don't believe the winner gets a WrestleMania shot or a WrestleMania main event spot.
They haven't mentioned it at the beginning yet. So.
I don't think that's what the Royal Rumble's about yet. I still believe that's not until 93. When Monday Night Raw premieres, they started that. I still think that's when that starts. I could be wrong. We've got 1990, 91, and 92 to prove me wrong. But I'm pretty sure 93 is when that all starts. But who knows? It might start in this one, and they just haven't mentioned it yet. So,
one thing I've noticed that's kind of weird. I have not seen, and I know why, because I know when the first one is, and I cannot believe it's that far down the timeline. But there's no triple threat matches yet.
Yeah, I don't think that really becomes a thing quite
1997 is when the first triple threat match was.
Oh, so you've already done your homework.
I've already done homework on it, and I'm just shocked because, I've been watching wrestling since I was a kid, and I just always thought triple threats were a thing.
No, apparently
that was new when I was just getting into, I was already into wrestling, but getting more into it when it started.
Okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move forward with the Royal Rumble. And no
video game this
well, yeah, there was another video game that released in the 90s. It was called, I believe it was called WWF WrestleMania Challenge.
Oh, wasn't that an arcade game?
No. WrestleMania Challenge was a Nintendo Entertainment System game.
Ooh. I think I remember that.
Plays similar to the first game, WWF WrestleMania, with the difference being the view of the ring is more. How do you want to describe it? It's not straight on. It's not flat on. It's more like a diamond.
Diamond.
Yes, looks more like a diamond when you're looking at it. This time, instead of 6, which I believe you could play in the last game, this game features 9 wrestlers now, so they've added a couple wrestlers. Now you can play as Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, Macho King Randy Savage, The Ultimate Warrior, Big Boss Man, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, Ravishing Rick Rude, and Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and you can even play as a character called Yourself.
Okay.
Which is just a generic character that you can play as. But the game...
Curious what his moveset is.
Yeah, the game kind of plays very similar to the first game. Keep in mind, we're still in the Nintendo. So punch kicks. But I did notice that the game has a little bit extra moves you could do. You could do drop kicks and jump off the top rope, and there was a few things that were noticeably added. Not a lot, but just a few things added.
I went on YouTube after our episode and I watched some gameplay footage of that game that you mentioned last podcast.
Yeah.
And I remember it. It was rough. The one thing I will say is I enjoyed the music. I enjoyed the little 8-bit version of I am a real American.
Well, and
there was no lyrics.
Well, and that's the kind of cool thing about this game, too, is as you are wrestling, when you go through the challenge mode and you're wrestling each individual wrestler, you hear that 8-bit version of their music.
Yeah.
And you've got the
That's how it was in the last game, too.
So you get to hear that music throughout the whole match. Now, this match also added tag team matches, 3-on-3 matches, and or maybe that's it. Just tag matches and 3-on-3 Survivor Series elimination matches.
Ooh.
So this game actually originally was supposed to be called WWF Survivor Series because it was supposed to be their version of Survivor Series wrestling game, but for whatever reason, and I'm not 100% sure the reason, because it even came out in November, they changed the name to WrestleMania Challenge. Maybe they just thought the WrestleMania brand was bigger and would sell more copies. I don't have a real explanation on why, but it does tell me that it was originally supposed to be called WWF Survivor Series, but then they changed the name. So I don't have an explanation on why they changed the name, but maybe marketing. WrestleMania was pretty big at this time. At this point in November 90, you would have had 6 WrestleManias, and the last one being Ultimate Warrior. So it was a huge WrestleMania.
Yeah,
so maybe they just marketing reasons. So, but anyhow, if you play through all the characters in the one-player challenge mode, at the end you are declared the champion, and that's you don't get to see yourself holding a belt or nothing, but it just says you are now WWF champion. So,
the old text, you win.
So you win. You're
this
champion.
is what you fought for.
Yeah.
Just these letters.
Yeah. So, and you just go through. You go through each individual person. You can definitely tell it was built to be a Survivor Series game because after you beat each opponent, it says Big Boss Man has been eliminated. It doesn't say you defeated Big Boss Man. It says has been eliminated. So the whole game was set up to be Survivor Series with eliminations and everything.
I'll probably watch this as well.
Yeah, you definitely watch these videos on YouTube. Once again, we wish we could play these games. I've been watching these games on YouTube, remembering them, because we did play these games. We're talking 30 years ago.
Now, when I get caught up on these, on my YouTube page, I believe I'm still on. I think I just did WrestleMania 3 or 4 last time. So I'm still really behind on the Rage and Blaze show on the YouTube. I was planning on at least putting pictures of the game, maybe debating on putting on videos on our podcast so the viewers on YouTube can see what these games were like.
Yeah, so these games are definitely gems. they're kind of hard to go back and replay in the year 2020. I mean, 2020's been rough enough, so you don't want to add to the intense frustration on trying to play these 8-bit games,
right?
And wonder why you can't do even a fraction of what you can do in today's game.
Now, I'm sure our opinion will change, but at least after watching WrestleMania, the game, it's probably better if you just look at it and let go. It didn't look like
just remember it. Just remember it was a childhood memory and leave it at that.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's our time for our little video game recap. Just kind of going through the history of the wrestling video games. If we find some more in the 90s, we'll definitely share on the next episode. But
specifically 1990.
No, that's what, yeah. So we'll definitely continue to grow and talk about these games. I know once we start getting into the Nintendo 64, even the Super Nintendo games, they have some replay.
No,
those are some fun. I mean, 64's got one of the best wrestling games ever.
I went down a rabbit hole when I was going to find that WWF WrestleMania game, and there is one game. I don't know if you want me to bring it up here, but there was one game that I definitely remember loving as a kid, and I can see that still being fun.
And that game is, we're not going to talk elaborate
WWF Royal Rumble.
Was on Dreamcast?
No, I think it was on Super Nintendo.
Because there was two. There was one on Dreamcast.
Well, the Super Nintendo one's the one I'm talking about. And I remember playing that a lot. You had to... they had the Royal Rumble mode. Mind you, I think they could only have like 6 people in the ring at one time. So there was a cap on how many people could go. But I remember it being very fun. And when I watched it, it was very fun. I remember it.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. If anybody from the WWF/WWE or anybody from Nintendo of America is listening to this podcast, I know Nintendo has a virtual console. They currently have Nintendo and Super Nintendo on there. We beg of you, please give us some wrestling video games. Get the licensing thing worked out. I'd love to play some old wrestling games. And please give us a Nintendo 64 virtual console. I would love to revisit WWF No Mercy or even WCW NWO Revenge World Tour.
You really think that if they do a virtual console, you're going to get that game?
I'm asking. I am pleading with the audience.
If they're going to do
any connection.
WCW versus NWO, the first one.
Oh yeah, the WCW NWO. That was a great game. But then WWF had their own, WrestleMania 2000 and No Mercy. And they were amazing. They were amazing. But I'm telling you, we would love to see these games on Nintendo Switch, Virtual Console. I think give them to us, or even if they could put these games on Xbox.
If I'm not mistaken,
on the arcade.
Yeah,
I mean something. We would love to revisit some of these old wrestling games. I know there's a licensing issue, but come on, throw some money at it and get it done.
Yeah, I think WCW versus NWO, that game is what really brought me my love for creating wrestlers, creating characters. I remember creating all kinds of wrestlers on that game.
I remember. I feel like
the other ones.
I feel like wrestling games was almost always the measuring stick of when a new console came out. The first thing I cared about when a new console came out was, what does the wrestling game look like?
That could be just us.
It could be. But
I think most people
keep in mind,
sports games in general, like football or basketball.
We're huge football fans, but they're always wearing a helmet and they're wearing pads.
Yeah.
So when you got a game like wrestling or NBA, you got to see faces. You got to see full bodies. That, to me, was the measuring stick of what a new console looked like. Was when these games came out. And it was like, look at them graphics.
You bringing this up is really kind of itching. I almost kind of feel like I have a Twitch stream as well. I almost feel like we need to play some WWE 2K19 and Twitch that.
Maybe sometime we will.
I believe that's on Game Pass.
Is it?
I think so.
2K19's on Game Pass? I'll be done.
If you have it, I say Rage and Blaze has a match. An epic match.
So you want whooped. That's what you're saying.
Negative.
Well, I'm looking at the time we've spent at the opening, and we've got a show to do. It's time to get to Royal Rumble 1990. Let's get to this going. Okay, so at the beginning of the show, we get kind of a Vince McMahon introduction with small clip-it videos of the wrestlers that are going to partake in tonight's event.
Also all the matches that we're going to be watching too.
Yeah, so we kind of get that big old introduction that they usually do, and then it's on to the action. They kind of jump right into it, and our first match is a tag team match with the Bushwhackers versus the Fabulous Rougeaus, Jacques and Raymond Rougeau against the Bushwhackers, Butch and Luke. And this match was an okay match. There wasn't nothing overly exciting. Wasn't a bad match. It was just kind of a fun match, you know.
I guess it could have been worse.
And then, of course, and we've got to mention Jimmy Hart was in the corner of the Rougeau brothers.
Of course.
Like always. But it was kind of a long match. It was 13 and a half minutes. It was kind of a little bit too long for not being overly exciting. You know, usually when you get the long matches, there's
really good, deep matches.
There's really good matches going on, and this one just was kind of there.
Yeah, I wasn't big on this match.
No, it just a lot of fun moments, but nothing. And I kind of saw a couple botches.
Yeah, there was a weird flip that they did on, I think it was Luke.
Well, there was even a moment where it looked like they were supposed to collide, and they missed each other. Like the Rougeaus kind of did something that caused the Bushwhackers to collide in each other, but then they totally missed each other, but then they still fell down. And I noticed that moment. It looked very awkward. So, I mean, this kind of leans towards it was a bad match.
Yeah, it was. It was a bad match. It was just, and what stinks, I guess, depending on your opinion of the Rougeaus, is I was starting to get a little warmed up on them. Like they were kind of a fun, terrible on the mic heel team, but in the ring they were doing some fun heel things.
Well, and as kids, we loved the Bushwhackers. We met them in person.
We did, and they don't quite measure up to my childhood. They're not. I can see why I had fun with them as a kid.
They're a fun team.
They're a fun team if you're a child.
This is true.
As an adult, they're not really. They don't have a lot of substance. They're just kind of wacky and weird, and they're not
brawlers.
They're more brawlers. They're not really good in the ring, but they do a lot of fun things that I can understand why my 10-year-old self was like, "Oh, I love this," and I'm so glad you licked my head.
Yeah, they did lick both of our heads. Okay, so we're going to just move on from this match just to understand that it just wasn't the best match. It wasn't so egregious that we're going to bash it overly, but it just...
Yeah. We're not going to complain about this match on Facebook, but we are breaking up. You don't like the analogy?
Fair enough. Okay, so let's move on then. Okay, so the next thing we get is a Mean Gene Okerlund interview with the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, and Virgil. And Mean Gene's kind of poking the bear here. He's like, last year there's some conspiracy about how you got your number.
This year, shenanigans.
This year, and he showed the audience, this year, you get number one. It's kind of a bad number, isn't it? So $1 Million Man, he of course has some little kickbacks and little talking and saying it, and it was a fun little promo. Love the $1 Million Man.
Yeah, Ted DiBiase is fantastic.
Okay, so then after that we get the next match, which is Brutus the Barber Beefcake versus the Genius, and of course we get a poem before the match. from the Genius, and then we get an entrance from Brutus with theme music.
A fantastic poet. What do you say, Rage?
I don't know. So not my taste. So anyhow, this match started off slow, in my opinion. A lot of pandering, not a lot of wrestling, just a lot of, little warm-up stuff that, you kind of do at the beginning of a match. And then it kind of picked up a little bit and became kind of a decent match. But then the ending just kind of was off the rails. Referee gets knocked out. Brutus gets his scissors out and starts cutting Genius's hair. Mr. Perfect, I'm assuming they have a kind of a tag team going on between Genius and Mr. Perfect at this time. They must be aligned together because Mr. Perfect comes out to stop Brutus from cutting the hair, and then all hell breaks loose. And the odd part about this is it ends in a double disqualification.
Yeah, this is another bullshit ending.
It's kind of weird.
I will say that the Genius had some interesting ways to sell moves. So it was interesting up till the end, and then the end was they did it again. They did a double disqualification, which makes no sense. Pick a lane, people. Pick a lane. Either this guy gets disqualified or this guy gets disqualified. Unless they're doing something at the exact same time, you don't double disqualify.
Yeah, and I don't know if Brutus got disqualified for cutting hair. I'm not sure why he got it. They didn't really explain why he got disqualified as well, because it was Mr. Perfect came out and attacked him. I mean,
and you say that
I'm not 100% sure how they came to the decision. So this wasn't a bad match, but it was an odd ending, slow in the beginning. It was just kind of awkward.
You were saying that they were tag teams. See,
I think why else would he come out?
I think in the last show I can explain that right there. Mr. Perfect and Brutus are having a feud. He comes out to attack Brutus. Genius just reaps the rewards.
Maybe.
However, didn't we think Genius was a manager? Wasn't he Mr. Perfect's manager?
Yeah, this is the first time we've seen the Genius wrestle on our podcast. So he has came out as a manager.
Who was he a manager for? Wasn't it Perfect?
Well, the last show we did was Survivor Series. He came out with that group. I don't remember who exactly he was walking with or aligned with, but he came out with one of the Survivor Series team. So it's kind of hard to remember.
The perfect one.
Might have been Mr. Perfect. So anyhow, that's enough for that match. It's a little bit chaotic. Then we get a promo with the Heenan family, with Andre the Giant, Haku, and Ravishing Rick Rude. And here we get a little bit of dissension between the team because the guy doing the interview is asking, well, what if you and Haku are the last two in the ring? And it's like they're asking questions about, well, what are you going to do if it's just you guys in the ring? And so it's causing a little bit of friction. They're trying to build up to this Royal Rumble with people that are in a faction together.
Which I'm just going to say, Ravishing Rick Rude made the right answer. He said the right thing. I'm going to do what it takes to win. He's not playing friends. It's Royal Rumble. There's no friends at a Royal Rumble.
But you can't voice that out loud because
yes, you can.
Because then it just feels like you're fighting your friends. Okay, so moving on to the next match. Both men were in the ring when they bring the camera. Rugged Ronnie Garvin versus Greg the Hammer Valentine with Jimmy Hart in the Hammer's corner. I just have to say this was an I Quit match or a submission match. However you want to. It is listed in Wikipedia as a submission match.
They said it's a submission match. They also said I Quit. But it's
Jesse the Body kept referring to it as an I Quit match.
But just so you know, it's not an I Quit match like we probably more future people think of an I Quit match, where you give them the microphone and force them to say I quit. Back then, there was no tap outs. We've come to that realization watching wrestling. You can tap out all you want. It doesn't stop the match. It doesn't end the game, end the show. You can tap out. There is no tap outs yet. The only way to lose in a submission match is to say I quit. So They say it's an I Quit match, but it's a submission match.
Okay. Well, I'd like to talk about this match because, surprisingly, based off of who's in the match and everything, I thought this match was fantastic.
Yeah, this was a good match considering I barely cared about the two people. And like Rugged Ronnie Garvin, I thought was a jobber the first time we saw him. And apparently he's not.
And I love that we've get a submission match already. I didn't think we'd see stuff like that for a few more years doing this podcast, but I absolutely love seeing a submission match. I thought this match was fantastic. The only knock on this match is the two men in the match kept forgetting the rules and kept trying to roll each other up. You can't pin in a submission match. So just that was the only kind of thing that was awkward, that there was times that both guys would try to roll the other up and the ref won't count, and they kind of look at the ref like, why aren't you doing your job? Oh yeah. So this concept must have been pretty new, that they even in the ring kept forgetting the rules of a submission match. So, but you had this idea that both guys came out with kind of like a plate, like a protective plate on their legs, and that protected them from like the figure 4 leg lock and stuff like that. So you had a moment
they were wearing braces.
Yeah, so you had
like a shin guard.
Yeah, like
it was
a shin guard. But you had a moment where Rugged Ronnie Garvin was doing faces to the Greg the Hammer Valentine, just based off the fact that it wasn't hurting him because he had the shin guards. So this match was fantastic. It had a lot of great moments, a lot of great wrestling. And so far, this is candidate for best match of the night. Now, keep in mind, we don't rank the Royal Rumble as a match. So
we haven't had a good match. So, yes, this would probably be the best match of the night.
But even so, something's going to have to be head over heels because this match was fantastic. It was 16 minutes, and it had a lot of great stuff going on. The shin guards getting ripped off of both guys eventually. I just thought this match had everything, and it was just fantastic.
No, this was a decent match. I agree. And yeah, I agree that I was happy to see a submission match this early in our podcast. I don't really have any bad things to say. I thought both competitors put on a good match. I really enjoyed, because of the shin guards, I really enjoyed Ronnie Garvin's pretty much laughing at
and that was a fun moment.
Greg the Hammer Valentine's like, this ain't hurting me none, when he had him in a figure 4.
And the funny thing about that is when he first started doing it, I'm sitting here like, this dude is not selling his move. Like, what is
He's
this guy doing?
He wasn't.
But then I remembered the shin guard.
Yeah.
And the shin guard came into play, and I thought that was fantastic.
Both of them was wearing one.
Yeah, both was wearing one, but Greg the Hammer was bitching to the ref about Rugged Ronnie Garvin's at the beginning of the match. So, but that match is over now, so we'll go ahead and move on. But if you get a chance, get on the WWE Network, watch this match. It was amazing.
It was a good match.
Okay. So now we get an interview with Mr. Perfect, and apparently he has drawn the perfect number 30. So we now know the number 1 and the number 30 entries are in this Royal Rumble.
Which I'm not sure how I feel about this, because I love the surprise elements when it comes to a Royal Rumble. I like surprise entrance. I like to be surprised when who the last person to come out is. I just like the element of surprise when it comes to Royal Rumbles. And they kind of are taking a little bit of that out.
Well, it doesn't seem like they've kind of started that aspect yet.
Well, they also don't seem to care as much about it because they should be winning a title. Or not a title, but winning the number 1 contendership.
Okay, so we get this interview with Mr. Perfect. Mean Gene asks him about the run-in with Brutus the Barber Beefcake, and then we talk about the number he has drawn, and then we get a Brother Love segment.
Your favorite.
And this is a lengthy segment. It was kind of just, I really didn't care for this segment. It didn't really get exciting until Sapphire actually started, because you got Queen Sherry and you've got Sapphire in the ring, and they're just berating her and talking to her and making fun of her, not letting her talk. Finally, she gets a chance to say a few things, which is, I've had enough of you. And then she slaps Queen Sherry. Macho King comes down. And then you have Dusty Rhodes comes down. And then all hell breaks loose. To me, this was just time that I can't get back.
Well, I wanted to bring something up because I was curious about something. And I'm sure you're kind of curious about as well. Why is Brother Love's face red? So I looked up Brother Love and found out that Brother Love, Bruce Pritchard, who plays Brother Love, went to Vince McMahon about this idea. He wanted to do like a TV evangelist. He wanted to kind of do a version of that for WWF. And Vince McMahon was like, no, he didn't like the idea. So he came in without the face paint and interrupted a meeting with Vince McMahon and the two other big wigs in WWF. They were having a meeting and he interrupted it for an impromptu 2-minute sermon. And Vince McMahon ended up calling him back, said, I love it. And he let him go on as Brother Love. They did his makeup that day. He had no idea they painted his face red. Apparently that was the one thing that Vince McMahon wanted. Vince McMahon is like, yeah, I like it. Paint it red. So he got this face paint on, did not know what his face was looking like until he saw the taping of it and found out, oh, they've just made it completely red. So I still don't really know why it was painted red, but it was something that Vince McMahon wanted.
He had to wait till it was on TV before he knew?
Yeah, he didn't.
So this was a time before mirrors. Mirrors did not exist.
Okay, no, he said before he looked in the mirror, but it was after he did the segment. It was after he did the segment. He didn't know when he went out.
Okay, so I don't know about you, but I'm done talking about that segment. Let's go ahead and move on with the show. Okay, so the next thing we get is a Hacksaw Jim Duggan interview. A typical Hacksaw Jim Duggan talking about his match with the Big Boss Man.
And talking about hoes.
Yep. Ho! And calling his opponent tough guy. The typical Hacksaw Jim Duggan stuff. So this match was okay. Two big guys going at it. It was kind of fun.
I don't know. Hacksaw really didn't seem to sell moves very well in this match. And we've had a rule here at the Rage and Blaze show. If you're a big guy and you're facing another big guy, what don't you do? What do you not do? Because it makes no sense.
The Truffle Shuffle?
No, I don't believe we've ever said that once in our life.
Okay.
On the Rage and Blaze show.
I didn't know I was going to be quizzed. I wasn't ready for a test.
She's got it. She's got it right there. She's pantomiming bear hugs. You don't do a damn bear hug on another fat man if you're a fat man. All right? It just doesn't look good. Now, I will say that Hacksaw Jim Duggan...
Wait. Why doesn't it look good? Because you can't get your arms around him?
I mean, it just doesn't look like it hurts.
Oh, okay. I got you.
It's hard to sell that move. When it works when you're a big guy and you're facing a small guy. But big guys should not bear hug big guys. Small guys should not bear hug big guys.
What if you're Andre and everybody's smaller than you? Can you bear hug?
You can bear hug anyone you want if you're Andre the Giant.
Okay, fair enough.
His name has Giant after it.
Okay.
Unless he's maybe doing the Big Show.
So in this match, we have yet another match end in disqualification. This time, it's from the Big Boss Man using his nightstick, and Hacksaw Jim Duggan gets the win, and then some commotion happens after the match. And it looks like Hacksaw Jim Duggan gets his 2x4 from the sky, maybe? Or his 4x4 from the sky? I have no clue where that came from.
I personally don't understand why they disqualified the Big Boss Man. He was just dealing out justice. Hacksaw was not doing the right thing. He had to show him who's boss. The Big Boss. And he's a man.
I like that. Cute. Way to go. On that note, we're going to move on. Okay, so before the Royal Rumble match begins, we get a bunch of promos. We thought it was everybody from the Royal Rumble that gets a chance to talk, but after the Royal Rumble started, we learned that that's not the case because Coco Beware did not get an interview.
No, he did not.
So obviously, it wasn't every single person, but this lasted for a good while, so it was a lot of them.
It was quite a bit.
So we get little snippets of everybody. We get the Ultimate Warrior in his head, being crazy, looking more at the Royal Rumble sign behind him than the camera in front of him. He just kept turning his body around. The dude's going to be dizzy before the match even begins. So it's just insane. Tell you what, don't do drugs, boys and girls. Don't do drugs because...
Or steroids, which is a drug.
Steroids is crazy.
Or beat your wife.
Yeah, also
don't beat your wife.
We also do not condone beating of wives.
Don't beat your wife.
Don't even wear wife beaters. We don't believe in wife beaters.
Although they are very comfortable. Don't wear them.
Yeah. Definitely not. Especially not white ones. The white ones are just terrible.
Don't do drugs, okay? Just don't do drugs. Okay. Dear Lord.
Okay, Missy Mackey.
Okay. So, now on to the Royal Rumble match. And the first entrant, as we already found out earlier in the show, is the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. And number 2, and this is when we realized that he did not get a promo because we know for a fact we never heard him talk.
Nope.
We get Coco Beware. And
you know what? I don't know if we heard Rowdy Piper talk during this segment.
I don't think we did either.
No.
And he's a big one. Yeah, we didn't get a Rowdy Piper interview either.
He's one of my favorite. Right now, he is my favorite to see on interviews. I love Rowdy Piper.
So anyhow, we have Ted DiBiase, Coco Beware at number 2. But we better start talking about these eliminations before we go
right
on.
away. I mean, they've wrestled for a little bit in the ring, but Ted DiBiase tosses Coco into the ropes, and he comes back and then flips Coco out of the ring.
And then, so already we got our first elimination. The third guy in the ring is one half of the Rockers, Marty Jannetty.
Yeah, and they wrestle a little bit as well. And then Marty Jannetty tries to do a flying cross body, and DiBiase just ducks it, and he goes over the ropes.
And that was fun.
That was a fun exit.
Okay, so number 4, we finally get some meat and potatoes in this match. We get Jake the Snake Roberts.
My dad's favorite wrestler.
Yeah, sure he would love seeing him in wrestling.
That's a twofer because I'm pretty sure Dad hates wrestling, and we know he hates snakes.
Yep. So then he survives the onslaught of Ted DiBiase. And then we get the Macho King Randy Savage. We get some double teamage here.
Oh, yeah. He comes out and he helps the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. And he says, never do a Slim Jim. Oh, yeah.
He didn't say that. He didn't say
I
that.
think he did. I'm pretty sure he did. He was advertising Slim Jim right in the ring.
I don't believe he was. No,
he was throughout my whole childhood. That's all he did was advertise Slim Jim. So it must be true. It must be true.
No, he's a king.
Okay, he's the king of Slim Jims is what he is. Okay, so the next guy in the ring is Rowdy Piper.
Love it.
Yep.
Love it.
So then we get the Warlord. Then number 8, we get Bret the Hitman Hart. And then we get Bad News Brown and the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes.
Well, during all this chaos, we had another elimination.
Okay.
The Macho King, right when Jake the Snake is about to do a DDT on the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, Macho King comes running off the ropes and clotheslines Jake the Snake Roberts out of the ring.
So is that all the eliminations we've had
As
so
of
far?
right now, that's all
so
the
far
eliminations.
we've got 3 eliminations,
2 by Ted DiBiase and 1 by Macho King.
10 entrants,
Randy Savage.
and so far this Royal Rumble has been fantastic.
Yeah, this has been fun so far.
Okay.
Really good.
All right, let's go. So the next entrant in the Royal Rumble was Andre the Giant. Number 12 was one of our favorite wrestlers, the Red Rooster. Number 13 was Axe, followed by number 14, Haku. Then 15 was Smash. Number 16 was Akeem. 17 was Superfly Jimmy Snuka. Number 18 was Dino Bravo. Number 19 was the Canadian Earthquake. And number 20 was Jim the Anvil Neidhart.
All right, let me go down with some of the eliminations here. Dusty Rhodes tosses out the Macho King. Pretty early, actually.
Yep.
Andre just lazily tosses out the Warlord. He got him up a little bit, you know. Rowdy Roddy Piper tosses out Bad News Brown, and then Bad News Brown pulls out Piper in anger. The Red Rooster gets taken out by Andre. Then both members of Demolition push Andre out. Bret Hart is eliminated by Dusty Rhodes, and it was weird because we didn't get to see it.
Yeah,
Bret Hart gets taken out, and they don't even show it. It was off camera. Jimmy Superfly Snuka clubs Akeem, knocking him out. Shortly after Earthquake comes out, he takes out Dusty Rhodes, and then body slams Axe from Demolition out. And then everyone works together that's in the ring and takes out Earthquake. So go ahead and continue.
Okay, so number 21 is the Ultimate Warrior.
Yes.
Number 22, the model Rick Martel. Number 23, Tito Santana. Number 24, the Honky Tonk Man. Number 25, Hulk Hogan. Number 26, Shawn Michaels. Number 27, the Barbarian. Number 28, Ravishing Rick Rude. Number 29, Hercules. And number 30 was Mr. Perfect.
Well, Ultimate Warrior starts out strong, quick. He takes out Dino Bravo almost as soon as he gets in. Then Haku does that kick finisher.
That was cool.
And takes out Dino Bravo. Smash kicks Smash out from Demolition. Jim the Anvil Neidhart is pushed out by the Ultimate Warrior. Ultimate Warrior then clotheslines Ted DiBiase. Then Hogan comes in, and he lazily clotheslines Snuka out. And then he does a very lazy big boot to Haku. Then the model, while being pushed out by Tito, actually manages to stay in and pull Tito over. Then the Warrior takes out Michaels and Models right back to back. Then Hogan eliminates the Ultimate Warrior.
Wait, whoa. Slow down. We got to talk about the moment that the Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan had a little bit of face-off.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit of a moment in the ring, and then double clothesline each other.
Yeah, and then they lay there for like a minute.
Until the next guy comes in. They just decided to lay there.
Yeah, they were definitely building up and getting ready for WrestleMania.
Yeah, you could definitely tell this was a build-up moment.
I'd be almost willing to bet that this is the first and only time the the champion wins. I guess we'll talk about that later. So our final four, after Hercules tosses out Barbarian, is Hercules, Ravishing Rick Rude, Mr. Perfect, and Hulk Hogan. And this ends with Rick Rude clotheslining Hercules, taking him out. Then as Mr. Perfect's trying to get in the ring, he lowers the rope and Rude goes running into it and flies out. Then, of course, Mr. Perfect does the Perfect Plex, which is worked on literally every superstar. And Hulk Hogan just sits up, doesn't sell it, because that's what Hulk Hogan does. And just goes, no, I don't take moves, because I'm a Superman. And then Hogan, of course, throws out Mr. Perfect.
Okay, so a couple notes here. So the winner of the 1990 Royal Rumble is Hulk Hogan. Ted DiBiase set a record in this.
Did he?
A longevity record. He lasted 44 minutes and 47 seconds. So he, at this time, was the longest person to stay into a Royal Rumble match as of this match.
Well, I have a few other. As we know, last Royal Rumble, Andre had the most eliminations with 4. This Royal Rumble that gets beat by 2 men.
2 men.
2 men. Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior tie for 5 eliminations.
Okay.
So now, as of 3 Royal Rumbles, the most eliminations is done by Hogan and Ultimate Warrior with a tie. With 5. And then Hogan wins, and he was the 25th entrant. So we've had a 27th entrant and a 25th. And then the first one, which technically wasn't a pay-per-view, but it's also a 20-man, was Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and I believe he was 11 or 12th.
I can check. It was Hacksaw was number 13.
13. I was off by 1.
So it wasn't 11 or 12.
Oh,
Okay,
well,
so I thought this was a very fun Royal Rumble match. Probably the best Royal Rumble match we have seen. Not sure if this was the best Royal Rumble overall show, but this was definitely my favorite of the 3 Royal Rumble matches we've seen so far.
I kind of agree.
Had a lot of great moments. This was a fun one. I had a lot of fun watching this one.
Kind of disappointed with the winner, but, you know.
Well, I'll tell you what, though. We do get to see Hogan winning the Rumble and moving on to WrestleMania in the main event.
Except for he's already the champion. That
doesn't matter. He gets to go to the main event.
Kind of matters.
He's going to main event WrestleMania.
But what I was going to say earlier is this is probably the first and only Royal Rumble where the champion wins the Royal Rumble.
I don't know if it's the only. It just depends when they start because who knows? Hogan could do this again as champ. We don't know.
Well, you're right.
We don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, we could look it up because it's history.
We don't want to do that. We
don't want to do that.
We want to watch these as they go.
Okay, so that's it for the Royal Rumble. Did you have a favorite elimination?
Oh, favorite elimination. Whew, that's a good question.
I'll give you time to think about it because I have mine. I think the best elimination was a group effort
to take out
the Canadian Earthquake. So congratulations, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, Haku, Smash, Jimmy Snuka, Ted DiBiase, and Dino Bravo for having the best elimination of the night.
I disagree. I do have a favorite elimination. It was Ted DiBiase ducking Marty Jannetty's flying crossbody.
That was fun. That was fun.
That was a fun elimination.
But I enjoyed the everybody ganging up on the big fat guy.
It's going to happen often.
I know, but this is one of the first times I think we saw it.
Yeah, because the last time
They tried to do it to Andre, but Andre eliminated himself. Remember?
last time my favorite was Andre's elimination when he ran out with the snake. All right, so let's do our best.
Favorite match of the night.
Okay, so the best match of the night for me was easy, just based off the fact that I don't think this had a lot of great matches in the show, and it had one that stood out that I actually thought was fantastic, and that is Rugged Ronnie Garvin defeating Greg the Hammer Valentine in a submission match. I thought this match was fantastic. I was really happy to see a stipulation match because we haven't got a lot of that. I mean, we get the Survivor Series match, and then but to have a stipulation match was pretty cool because we haven't really had a lot of those in this show.
Yeah, and I think I cannot believe I'm giving the best match of the night to Rugged Ronnie Garvin and Greg the Hammer Valentine, which I guess I don't really have an issue with Greg the Hammer Valentine. He's fine. But yeah, it was the best match of the night. I absolutely agree.
Worst match of the night.
Okay, so worst match of the night, in my opinion, could go to every match except for the Rugged Ronnie Garvin, Greg the Hammer Valentine match. I mean, you could choose almost any of these matches, whether it was because of the just sloppy endings or whether it was just because of lackluster matches. I just didn't think this had a great showing of matches.
Yeah, this was not a great card.
So I guess I'm going to have to give it to the first match of the night. The Bushwhackers versus the Fabulous Rougeaus. I just didn't find a lot of entertainment in that match.
So I think I agree with you. There's not a good match other than that Ronnie Garvin, Greg Valentine, I Quit match. But I was kind of strongly debating on that Bushwhackers Rougeau match. But because I don't like to agree with you, and I have another option, I'm going to go with that terrible ending. That terrible ending with Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Yeah, that one.
Okay.
Royal Rumble rankings.
Okay, so we have 3 Royal Rumbles in the book now. So we've got 3 to choose from. And although I don't think the matches outside the Royal Rumbles have been really great in any of these shows, to be honest with you, we did have a standout match, in my opinion, with the submission match. I do think that was a standout match. And I'm going to judge based off of that one standoff match and the fact that I think this was the best Royal Rumble match that we've seen so far. So I'm going to keep it simple and go Royal Rumble 3, 2, then 1. Those are my rankings.
Yeah, I don't know if it's as big of a standout match. It was definitely the best match of the night, but I don't know if it's as big of a standout match as you're saying. But I am going to give it to Royal Rumble 3 for the best Royal Rumble, pretty much. So, so I'm going to go Royal Rumble 3, 2, 1 as well. I'm agreeing.
That's pretty simple. Okay, so that concludes our Royal Rumble coverage. We can go ahead and plug the pluggables before we finish off here.
Yeah, you can follow me at Dragon Blazer Productions on the Facebooks, the Instagrams, the YouTubes. And you can also follow me on Twitter at Dragon Blazer Pro. And guess what?
What's that?
We are now on I guess it's like the podcast equivalent to IMDb called Podchasers.
Really?
Yes, I just added us.
Did not know we were there. Okay.
And on Podchasers, you can go on there. You can rate. You can review us. Tell us how you are enjoying the show.
Sounds like a good deal.
Just search The Rage and Blaze Show.
Okay, so you can find me at The Rage and Blaze Show on Facebook, at The Rage and Blaze Show on Instagram. There's only the one Instagram, only the one at Facebook.
No, there's multiverse.
And then you can find me at Ricky Rayberg at Twitter. So that is where you can find everything. And if you disagree with us, let us know.
We love your hate.
Yeah, tell us where we were right. Don't tell us where we were wrong, because we're going to tell you why we were right. But you can still send it and continue the conversation. We can talk old school wrestling all day long. Okay, so this has been the Rage and Blaze Show.
Talk current wrestling too.
We can talk.
We like all the wrestling.
Well, running out of time here, but if you want to talk current wrestling, did you watch Takeover 31?
I did not.
Oh my gosh, Io Shirai and Candice LeRae.
I heard Ember Moon came back.
Ember Moon at the end of the match. They had two little reveals there. Ember Moon and there was somebody else that came back on a big screen. Anyhow, point is that that match tore the house down. I thought it was amazing. They had a great match for the NXT Women's Championship, and that was a heck of a match. So I just thought I'd throw it out there. Okay, so this has been the Rage and Blaze Show. I'm Rage.
And I'm Blaze.
Good night from Rage's Pit.
And here is your winners, and still podcast tag team champions of the world, the Rage and Blaze Show. Thank you for listening.
Hey everyone, this is Blaze from the Rage and Blaze and the Boomer and Blaze Show. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for more wrestling content.